Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, here I be. I hope I sound sort of like I always do, because guess what? I'm controlling the whole friggin' show all by myself. But you can't call. You can still email me and all of that. This is this attempt to transition us into me being a one-woman band. I feel a little odd because things aren't exactly like they usually are, but what the hell? Let's get this going. It didn't help that I didn't sleep last night, so my voice sounds like holy hell. But what do I? Okay, I'm all ready. It's oh, I got to tell you, this is funny. So on what I still call Twitter yesterday, a listener posted this. I don't think he minds. He has his, my God, your name is trademarked? That's impressive. He's got thousands of followers. His name is Mord McGee. And he says, has there been a more chilling phrase spoken in Pittsburgh than when today Lynn Cullen uttered, "I'll be in control of the technology starting tomorrow"? Well, Mord, here it is. I hope this is going okay. I don't have a clue. It's funny. I'm trying to get one thing down. Okay, so I'm fiddling with things that I don't normally have to fiddle with, and that gets me a little nutty. But yeah, I can't get that up. Okay, who gives a shit? Let's just do the show. I hope it sounds okay. Let me know. I'm watching. I got two computers in front of me now, so I'm a little distracted. But what the hell? It's February 22nd, and we're off and running. Okay. Now, oh gosh, guess what I did yesterday? I paid my Allegheny County property tax. And for the first time, and I have to tell you, it was with extraordinary delight, I did not make the check out to what's his name, Weinstein, which I used to have to do, which is such crap. From the first time I paid an Allegheny County tax and found myself writing a check to a person who happened to be the treasurer, I thought it was the weirdest thing. I thought it should be like illegal, because I'm not paying him, I'm paying the county. And as you may recall, we had an election, and he is no longer the county treasurer. A woman named Erica Brucellers, I have no idea how she pronounces that, is. And so for the first time, she sent out the same essential tax, bill. And when I immediately looked to see who it says, please make check payable to, and damn, it didn't say Erica Brucellers. It said Allegheny County Treasurer, which is, I mean, obviously what he was up to, was his name John Weinstein? What he was up to was self-promotion, was making sure we all knew his name so that he would never lose an election. Ha ha! Guess not. The other thing I noticed, and I just have to, this is an aside as I paid my bill. Up at the top where they're giving all these instructions about what to do, what not to do, and there's a helpful little thing that says, if your tax bill mailing address needs revised, please call 412-343. And I cracked up. Do you know why I cracked up reading that? Because I can't think of many jurisdictions, governmental or otherwise, that would put on an official document, if your whatever mailing address needs revised, please call. That is Pittsburghese, where the infinitive, is that what it is? To be is jettisoned. Because most places, people would say, if your tax bill mailing address needs to be revised, please call. I think that is proper English. Needs revised is so classic. Allegheny County. And I love it. I loved it. So this is the first tax bill I really thought was wonderful. Okay, there's that. You may recall that I believe it was a few days ago that I came upon this factoid that blew my mind, which was about Alexei Navalny, and that he had quoted at his trial when he heroically returned to Russia to be killed. He quoted the animated cartoon show Rick and Morty. Now, that is so mind blowing on so many levels to me, but I shared the quote with you. This is what he told this Russian kangaroo court. To live is to risk it all. Otherwise, you are just an inert chunk of randomly assembled molecules drifting wherever the universe blows you. And last night, I watched the documentary Navalny. And if you have not, boy, I am recommending it. I laughed, I cried, I fell in love. What an amazing man. What an astonishingly gifted, charismatic, clever, courageous, beautiful man. I so recommend it. You see how brilliant he was in the use of media. He was a filmmaker. He made these documentaries poking fun at or showing the kind of corruption that existed in Russia. And he would post them and they would get millions of views. It's how he was able to get, he had huge followings on all of social media because he was pretty much, in order to like attend an event where he was going to speak, every individual member of the audience would be essentially putting their own lives at risk. That's the level of courage required in Donald Trump's best friend Putin's country. And in fact, if you look at what has happened since he killed Navalny, there have been more than 400, I'm sure many more than 400 Russians who have been arrested. And the crime is laying flowers in Navalny's memory. Also, anyone who signed any petitions, an act of unbelievable courage. Stop and think of when you're asked to sign a petition. Yeah, maybe. Okay. My always greatest concern is, oh crap, I'll get, excuse me on my voice, I'll get on somebody's damn mailing list and this is just more emails I don't want to get. In Russia, signing a petition is an act of true courage. And remember, we have a party now, the Republican Party, that is a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump, who is a lapdog of Vladimir Putin. Never forget how that line goes. We have Putin as a puppeteer. At the end of the strings he holds is Donald Trump. And then, to keep the image going, Donald Trump, the puppet Donald Trump, has his own puppet. And that puppet is the Republican Party. Make no mistake, follow the strings. Connect the dots. The first puppeteer is Putin, his puppet is Trump, and Trump as a puppeteer has a puppet named the Republican Party. I'm seeing some of you talking to me on this live chat thing, and wow, it's coming at me so quickly. I don't know. What? Nancy? Nancy saying the sound is better than ever, but Lynn seems 20 years younger. What? I assure you she ain't. Anyway, you know what else Putin's doing to people who show up at any memorial held for Navalny? If you're a guy, you're given a military summons when you come out the door. You're drafted. This is the man this is his country. This is who Donald Trump so looks up to. Extraordinary. But Navalny, wow, just wow. In fact, he was making a documentary. There was a documentary being made of him, which is why there's this documentary, Navalny. And as he's interviewed throughout it, he gets very annoyed with the fact that he realizes, he's no dummy, God knows, he realizes that the documentarian is really just making this because he knows Navalny's going to be killed. And so toward the end, he actually asks Navalny, imagine they do succeed. What would you say to the Russian people? And that's when, I just lost it, because he makes this such a brilliant, he is brilliant. You've got to watch this. There's an amazing thing in it in which he, as he says, he pranks one of the scientists who was behind his poisoning, a chemist. And with cameras rolling and the call being recorded, he calls this scientist and pretends to be somebody else, a higher authority. He drops all kinds of names. As an actor, the guy's brilliant, as improv, because that's what it was. And so he gets this scientist to admit to the whole thing, what they had tried to do, how they had done it, how they had practiced, how they decided to place this horrific poison, which is Putin's poison of choice, called Novichok, because it leaves no traces after a little while that it's been in the body. And this scientist tells him everything. And then, of course, they're able to use that. And it was interesting because after they hung up the call with him, one of Navalny's compatriots said, we really should try to get him out, because they knew they were killing this guy, the scientist. As soon as they released this evidence, he's dead. And in fact, indeed, let's just say he's missing. So the impunity with which Putin acts in killing his own is just unbelievable. And I do not know if I look at the people that dared to greet Navalny's plane as it came in, with the police, arresting them left and right and dragging them off. I look at those people and I have to say, I see a lot of women again. I see old people and I see young people. And somehow that makes sense. Old people feeling like, hey, I've lived my life. If something happens, I mean, this is the least I can do. And then young people, because they don't know fear and they're idealistic and they believe they can make change. Everybody's saying the sound is better. What a riot. Well, I have to tell you, okay, it doesn't matter. I ain't telling you what I'm doing to make it better. Hey, they're going to probably land on the moon for the first time. I mean, a U.S. entity, a corporation, of course, because everything is corporatized in this country. What the government used to do, the corporations do now. And this, they're trying to land in a different area, the dark side of the moon, I believe. The cold, dark side where they think there is water in the form of ice and other resources that, of course, can be exploited. So we can pollute the moon like we polluted the earth. Anyway, if you're interested, I don't know. I'm sure it'll be carried somewhere. It's supposed to land at 5:30 tonight. It would be the first commercial vehicle to land on the lunar surface ever, and the first American spacecraft since 1972, which is a wow, for peace. That's a year I was married. Okay, so there is that. Um, oh, just say, this documentary, you got to watch it. I think I watched it on Amazon Prime. The only one of the few times I pay Bezos anything. Okay, so what else? Forgive me for being a little bit because things aren't where physically they usually are, and I'm oh, and just in case you thought anything had changed, uh, it is almost impossible to open a newspaper and not see an article of some Russian dissident, either in Russia or, as we know, Spain. He knocked one off in Spain the other day. They're being killed left and right. And today's, in the New York Times, I read pro-war Russian blogger dies after criticizing army. This is a guy who's for Putin's war in Ukraine. And he's dead because he dared to criticize the army. Now, it's unclear whether they knocked him off, they were telling him he was going to be knocked off, or whether he took his own life because he threatened to. He he said something to the effect of, I'll save you, uh, I'll save you some time. I don't know, something like that. And then uh, he also knew that after he was dead, that there would be no justice to be had. And so he actually put out before his death this in one of his final posts: the official investigation will establish everything. Ha ha. So you fall out of windows, you get poisoned, you get shot, you disappear like the poor chemist. Trump's pal, the Republicans' pal, Vladimir Putin. They love the guy. Hang on a minute. I'm getting, no, okay. Having a little bit of a problem, but don't tell anybody. Okay. What? Maybe Lynn found a funny cigarette on the sidewalk again. That bolsters a voice, right? No, it doesn't. It makes you cough. And I don't need to find it on the sidewalk. I got one right over here. It's weird, but the sound is better. That's really good. Yeah. Someone saying, I was going to say I'm surprised Navalny didn't fall out a window. Yeah. It made me think of that ridiculous softball interview that Putin-loving, what's his name? How it's so wonderful to forget his name. Carlson, Tucker Carlson. That even Putin put him down. Putin made fun of him during the interview, and Putin also made fun of him after the interview, saying it was a BS softball interview, but that he wouldn't even dare to ask, what is it about all the people who fall out of windows in your country? It is so odd because we don't have people falling out of windows. Well, we got children sometimes fall out of windows and an occasional cat and stuff, but yeah. All right. And lest you wonder where we're heading, uh, who is this? Charles Blow today. We are perilously close to all of this becoming a reality, and this follows his rendition of the horrors of right-wing nationalist Christian policy, the IVF thing, all of it that's heading our way if Republicans maintain any power anywhere. And he says he's talking to Democrats and independents who are feeling disaffected. He says this, and I so wholeheartedly agree with him, I want to share it. I'm talking about many Democrats with single issue objections to President Biden, whether it's opposition to his position on the Israeli-Hamas war, disappointments about the overall state of the economy, or concerns about his age. They don't seem to see that in November, the country faces one of the most existential electoral decisions it ever has faced. If these Democrats decide to punish Biden by sitting it out, they could wind up performing one of the greatest acts of self immolation in political history, abandoning an administration committed to the protection of democracy and possibly allowing the ascension of a theocracy intent on destroying the very freedoms that progressives cherish. I might add that these disaffected progressives cherish that these whiny people who say, but I can't stand how he's done this or that or hasn't done this or that. These are people who literally cannot see the forest for the trees. And God help us if there's a lot of them. That brings us to the Michigan primary next week. This is going to be an indicator of, of that. There is, as you know, a large effort on the part of Democrats in Michigan to deny Biden delegates and votes in the upcoming primary. Not that they've got anyone they're running against him. They just want, and these are Democratic office holders as well, they just want people to refuse to vote. To, I guess there's a possibility of voting uncommitted. Uncommitted. This is dangerous. It weakens the Democratic nominee on one issue. And again, I have never in my life voted for somebody who I agreed with on everything. They all end up disappointing me, angering me. Obama did. God knows Clinton did. These are people I voted for. Yeah. Would I have voted for whoever they were running against? Hell no. Nor would I have wanted to live through their opponent's tenure. So, because Michigan has a huge Arab American and Muslim population, also a large African American population, which is definitely also unhappy, that identify with the Palestinians on this war. I'm frightened. So, people are talking about the South Carolina primaries. Screw that. The one we got to be watching is Michigan, because that's one of the states that we have to get. Okay, what else we got? No, I didn't see Jon Stewart the other day. I guess I could have. What? First of all, it's too late. It's, it's too late. Us old people, we eat dinner at 5. You know, well, I never used to eat dinner at 5, and I still don't much. But man, some of my friends, and they're younger than me, they'll invite me for dinner, and they'll say 5. Thinking 5. What? It just seems not right. Okay, I wanted to share. I just want to make sure I'm not leaving. Sorry, guys. I just don't know where my stuff is here. Okay. Um. Oh, this was funny. So Nikki Haley has now come out and said flat out that frozen embryos are babies. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Frozen embryos are not babies. And as one of our callers, Kurt, emailers, mentioned yesterday, if they're babies, then they're humans. And freezing a human uh, would seem to be a crime. I mean, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be put in a cryogenic state without my consent. So somebody suggested, well, so what do you think? If she thinks they're babies, okay, let's do the old, routine. If there were a fire in a building in which there were some babies, both the kind that Nikki Haley sees as babies, in other words, blastocysts. Is that what they're called? Blastocytes? I mean, they're just a little conglomeration of frozen cells. Um, let's say there's 1,000 of those babies, and there's one baby that you can pick up and hold and cuddle and truly bond with. She's got just a second. She's just got time to save. She could save 1,000 frozen babies because they're so teeny, or she could save one real baby. What would she do? I mean, if she thinks they're one and the same, you'd go for the 1,000, wouldn't you? You can you can save 1,000 babies. Who wouldn't do that? I see the Fern Hollow Bridge. The verdict is in, and it should have been closed down long before it fell down. And oh my God, yike! And it was all pretty much maintenance. They weren't maintaining it. They were told time and time again, these things are need to be unclogged. They're filling up. Things are rusting out here, and they did nothing, and it fell down. There's a bunch of other things too. It fell down. There's a lot of incompetent contractors hired by the government here, the local government, to do this kind of work. But even when they're competent and they give their findings to our elected representatives, nothing got done. And I want to make clear that that happened not under Mayor Gainey. That happened under Bill Peduto. That was the city's responsibility, and we are so lucky that more people, I mean, nobody died. It's beyond belief, but that was not a greater tragedy. Just extraordinary. Okay, well, I came upon this story a while ago, and it fascinated me, and I wanted to share it with you. It gets us away from Well, it doesn't get us away from, yeah, it does a bit. So it is a story about Americans, Black Americans, who have decided that they're sick and tired of living as a Black person in this country, and they're moving to Africa. Now, I've always known that that is something that has been considered and something that has been done, but and I don't think this article makes clear if there's an increase, but I think so. You actually now have African countries like Sierra Leone and Ghana that are actively setting up uh, agencies that would help and that recruit Black Americans to come. And so this article looks in on some of the Americans who have gone. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating for what they have found, how they feel. It's not something that they all respond in the same way, of course not. But some found that while they were sort of making ends meet, there's a guy in this article that lived in Harlem. And in order to live in Manhattan, and Harlem is in Manhattan, you got to have some money. And he didn't have a lot, but he was able to live in Harlem. And he decided to decamp to Africa. And he's now living in Ghana. He left 3 years ago. And he's blown away that he's now a rich person. He's rich. He was living as poor in America. Now he is rich. And he says, the article says, standing on his balcony in Ghana, Mr. McCrory recalled the injustices he had experienced in New York that spurred him to leave, especially the frequent stop and frisks, the violations he felt that sometimes left him in tears. And now he's struggling with that he's now a rich guy. So he says this: I'd rather have the moral dilemma of being in a higher class here rather than being marginalized in the system of oppression and racism I was there. But he's uncomfortable in finding himself looked at by regular native Ghanans as extremely rich. This other woman who shares a 6-bedroom home with her 76-year-old mother says, I just never thought that a single woman with a teaching salary could live in a place like this. She lives on an acre of land with avocado trees. And you know what it cost? $500 a month. She says, I feel better physically and emotionally. One of the things, and these are important quotes. One of the things I had wanted to get away from was being a Black woman in America. The expectation that I was strong, because in America, Black women are supposed to be strong, and it exhausted me. I just wanted a space to be me. And that trope of strong Black women is so, I mean, I've held it because I've often looked at Black women and I've seen such strength. But what it's like, it's like all we look at Asians and we think they're all like computer scientists. What the silliness that we put on people and how it impedes them in their lives. So the $500 she pays for this acre and a 6-bedroom house with the avocado trees for $500 in Rwanda, that is not cheap. And so one of the things that the American Blacks are finding as they repatriate to Africa is that the wealth gap that they come with, they are immigrants, but they ain't poor immigrants. They're rich immigrants. And so while they're also hoping to be a part of this Black culture and society, they often now are feeling apart by virtue of what is their now wealth. And there is friction that happens between the native people and these Americans coming in with their money. The governments of these countries love the influx of money. And that's why you have a number of them setting up these companies. One called Impact Root, that's in Kigali. And they're trying to talk Americans, Blacks, who are just sick and tired of being a minority, to enjoy being in a country where they look like everybody else. The problem is they sort of don't. And it says here that the American Blacks tend to not assimilate very well. They tend to sort of hang together. Some of them also, I wondered about this, the extreme anti-gay policies across Africa would seem to, make it a little uncomfortable for Americans. But then, as one woman says, seeing Black people on the money, on the billboards, it immediately eliminates your Blackness. So, what here in this country can never be eliminated, when you go to Africa, it just disappears because you blend in visually to the greater populace. It reminds me when I saw, actually, there was a story. One of these Black people they look at is a Black. Get this, she is a Black Jew, and she ended up in Uganda, and she went there to join her husband whose name is Israel, but he's a Black Jew as well. And she said, I went from being a minority within a minority. Can you imagine? A Black Jew. Man, you are twice a minority there. She says, to being surrounded by people who share both my race and my faith because they have a community of 2,000 people that they live with, a Jewish community of Africans. She said, in the United States, my identity came with qualifications. Black people qualified my Blackness because I was a Jew. And Jewish people qualified my Judaism because I was Black. Yeah. And it made me think of when I was about 14 or 15. And I went with my family to Israel. And when our plane landed, we landed in Tel Aviv. And I looked out the window, and it, wasn't, I've landed at airports before, but I'd never looked out the window and thought for a minute that the people who were waving, the plane to the gate, and the people that were unloading and the bags, and that all the people I was seeing were Jews. I had never in my life been in such a place. So if you're not a member of a true minority, you cannot imagine what that feels like, how mind-blowing it is. And yet, what I found as an American Jew in Israel is that the Israelis didn't necessarily feel, they saw me as an American. It's the same thing that these Black Americans are encountering when they return to Africa. And it's sort of fascinating in how we hang on to our identities and the desire to become, when you move from a minority status into a majority, but it requires literally leaving your country. It is still not a certainty that you will be accepted fully. But then there's this. One of the guys who's now living in Rwanda said that 2 of his 4 sons had experienced frightening encounters with police in the United States. And he said, I will never forget the light-hearted feeling I had when he approached an armed policeman in Kigali, the capital, to ask for directions, and was greeted with a smile. Something that seemingly innocuous. But the article does end by saying that there are some that it doesn't work, and they end up moving back to the US. one woman says, "You're coming to Africa, you're expecting that everybody's black, so I'm going to be okay. And then you get here, and then you're being othered, viewed as different and separate." Sort of like what I encountered in Israel, right? I thought, I'm a Jew, like you're a Jew, I'm a Jew, you're a Jew. No, they're thinking, I'm an Israeli, you're an American. And that's what happens to American blacks often when they go to Africa. And another woman who moved to Ghana and then lived there for 5 years, but then went back to New York. She said she was just feeling stressed about cultural differences, power failures. She said she started to feel she was becoming an angry person. And so she said, how much of yourself are you losing in the process of trying to adapt to a culture? Because heaven knows Ghana was not going to adapt to me. So I thought that was interesting, and it's called the article was in the New York Times, and it's called "Tired of Racism." Some opt for what they're calling a Blacksit. It's a play on Brexit. Black. Okay. So I had wanted to share that with you. Um, Hang on, I'm not keeping up with my. Oh dear. Uh, I got too many things. I got a mouse, I got a phone, I got two computers, and I need another arm. Uh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I keep saying okay, duh. Chuck writes, Lynn, good job. Good job controlling all the technology. Can I report problems with my computer to you now? Ha ha ha, kidding. I don't know if you covered this or not, but on the heels of this Alexei Navalny tragedy, we had Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin, yes, making an attempt to show us all how Russia is really better than we are, actually. On the one hand, we have an act of unbelievable courage, and on the other, we have an unbelievable act of deception. Where do I find the live chat thing? The live chat thing is if you watch the show, I listen to the show on YouTube. It's got a chat function. I'll try to keep my eye on it and the emails as well. Now, what I think I told you before. Uh-oh, my phone's gone. Um, what I told you before was that while I've now pretty much learned how to get this up and running, as I did, I have yet to learn how to take phone calls. And that is a whole other thing. And it's a lot more complicated. So I will now, I guess, be starting to attempt as soon as this becomes, just like muscle memory. I'll then try to do whatever. There was that. So, all right, just checking again. My emails. Milton is saying, ah, ah, that is funny. Milton has sent me, a picture of an egg, like an egg you'd eat for breakfast, egg in its shell. And he says, in Alabama, this is a chicken. Oh, God. Now, you heard my sister said the other day that someone had decided the answer to the age old question of which came first, the chicken or the egg, that it has to be the chicken. But then I said, I mean, you can go round and round. It's like trying to get your head around infinity. But where'd the chicken come from? Little Tony writes, I didn't think you paid attention to that chat on YouTube. Well, no, I didn't because I didn't see it. That was something my producer back at City Paper was seeing. I do not see that. Now that I've got the computer he was using, I'm seeing it. So this is the first time I'm seeing it. Tony goes on to say, so you got your county property tax. I didn't get mine yet. Hope it's not lost in the mail. I just got it. And I decided to just pay it. But yeah, you won't have to put Weinstein's name on the check. And that just freaked me out the first time I did it. And every time since, I always got annoyed. I think he always thought that, yeah, it would give him name recognition. Name recognition brings you votes. And Tony's saying, I wonder how many people didn't vote for him because of they were feeling like he and I about how dare he use that elected position to I gotta tell you something. There's just one thing that I have not been able to do successfully during the show, and I see it's coming to an end, and that I haven't been able to get to this screen. That oh well, I'm fucked. Yeah, I've screwed things up. Guess who's here that can save me now? Kevin! Oh, okay. Maybe I'm trying to get to the point where I can end the show and not screw everything up. And I'm not doing very well here. Kevin, I can't get the, I've been clicking on things and screwed this up. I was doing so good. Oh, you show me how to do that. Okay, so wait. So there's this. I'm trying to get to the, never got to the gray back. Never got the gray. It doesn't. Okay. Kevin Shepard, ladies and gentlemen, who's normally back at City Paper doing this, has been the poor soul tutoring me on how to do this. Okay. Yeah, but okay. Jeez. Okay. That's good. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Your real title is managing editor, right? No?
Director of Operations.
What the hell do I know? I thought he was a managing editor, is the director of operations of City Paper. And I was just one of your operations. Correct. And he's unloading me, I'll tell you. But he's going to be sitting here babysitting me for the first all of next week. I bet you don't have to do all of next week. Look at how good this has worked. Kind of. It has. Okay, guys, that was it. That was the test run. I am, we're going to make this work. Who would have thunk it? And thank you all for letting me know that this is, hey, they're listening in Cleveland. Thank you. And everybody thinks the audio is better. Great. Okay, guys, I will attempt now to end this program. Kevin's pointing at, I know, I watched this. I know how to do this. And I'll talk to you again on Monday, and I hope we're all still here, and who the hell knows, because man, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so much crap happens. Anyway, I'll talk to you Monday. You have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.